Welcome back, everybody, to Crawler Canyon's inaugural presentation of the Invitational. This is, of course, obviously, I would say, round 3. This would be the first group of round 3, though technically group 2, so group 2 runs first in round 3. We'll sort of describe it later anyway. This is Angles Through Oblivion. Some background B-roll will gradually guide us to the end here, where we are going to watch round 3, group 2. As mentioned, this is the first group. Group 2 is the first group. That's how it works here. There are the 3 rigs that compose group 2, who by name are Blue Sky High, followed by Ironsides, and alphabetically, lastly, Jolly Green. So, of course, we take those 3 gentlemen and line them up around the outside, as the first obstacle they must face is, of course, the spinner. The spinner is fickle. Sometimes it spins fast. Sometimes it spins slow. This is a day where it spins for a really long time. I'm trying to think of something to fill the time as it gradually winds down to a stop. And here it comes. Stopping first last on Jolly Green. Jolly Green will run first. He'll be the first of all 12 competitors to tackle Angles Through Oblivion. That leaves us just the remaining 2. The spinner just has to choose one. So whoever the needle lands on will run second, and whoever the needle doesn't land on will be perhaps the most fortunate and run last. Ironsides is running second. So with no ado at all, we will move directly to Oblivion. First out on the course as chosen by the spinner, Jolly Green. Fancy transition there. As he pulls to the line and prepares to make his ascent. And no one has made this ascent at all. There were no practices. There was nothing. The markers were laid out, and they were told to have at it. So Jolly Green here is going to find out that there are certain instances where having 6 wheels isn't explicitly an advantage. The first gate, where it's placed on these sort of steps, is really one of those is intermediate axle, middle axle. It's stuck on the ledge. When it gets stuck on the little edge, the rear wheels don't have anything to bite into. So he spends a lot of time airborne trying to clear this, and then once the middle axle walks up over it, he doesn't really have a problem. Verticality isn't one of Jolly Green's weaknesses. I would say his greatest weakness is turning. You know, I still don't think it's been officially recorded, but his overall wheelbase between the front axle and the rear axle has to be in the 17-inch area, which when trying to navigate through fixed, narrow spaces such as this, that can be problematic. So he's doing okay. Here comes out through gate 2. Now remember, any gate beyond gate 2 is still live. So he has to opt for a reverse so as not to strike gate 4. Coming around to gate 3, which is a bit of a wide turn. I know some of the camera angles don't expressly show how far apart the relative gates are, but gates 2 and 4 are pretty far apart. Gates 1, 2, and 3 there are in basically just a horseshoe or like a V format. That's how the Angles Through Oblivion came to be. And then it's another V. Everything is kind of in a V. He's got to go out wide, loop back around to try to make the 4th gate, which is honestly sort of the worst kind of side hill. It's not really a side hill, it's that there's a big block there, which is sort of at an angle. So the high side tires are up really high, and the low side tires are just dangling out in space where that marker is. And should competitors take it too far to one side or the other, this can happen. Now, I would say that in that instance, that would be the best case sort of scenario to come about. It's not a rollover. He did indeed mush the marker, but I'm assuming he'll take a 7 over a 10. The second half of the course is, in my estimation, tighter than the first half. So lining himself up for this, particularly that just being a slab, there's not really a lot of room to reposition himself. There's a decent gate spacing. I think we're on Crawler Canyon Modified, which are 14-inch gates. Don't quote me on that. It doesn't matter. He widened that one out for himself. This is the feast or famine layout of single run, no warm-ups, just go out and do it, as I think with any sort of preparation or pre-running, Jolly Green could have managed better here. I'm not saying he did terribly. I'm saying that first out has the greatest disadvantage. And even opting to go reverse through gate 6, front end gets pushed wide. It's really difficult to navigate backwards. So now he just has to pass through the start-finish gates. And the start-finish gates in pretty much every 6-gate competition are not, they're not handed, I guess would be the word. You can pass through a start-finish from whatever direction so long as you pass in between the two markers. So he's going to take a little extra here, even though he's already well clear of it. So Jolly Green finishes his run-through of Angles Through Oblivion, followed immediately by Ironsides. And we will find out here together whether or not that extra axle was a help or a hindrance, as effectively Ironsides is very much the same as Jolly Green. He just immediately crashes in to the left-hand marker at gate 1. I think because he sees the verticality and with his bumpers realizes he's not going to be able to make the ascent if he moves any further to his right. So he just wants to get through gate 1 with as little mess about as possible. Now, on Ripsaws, he does have a little bit less ground clearance than Jolly Green does on Canyon Trails. So this sort of sideways transition, he's trying not to have it shove him into the low marker, and he does indeed clear it. But now he's up quite high on this, and this is a situation where an extra axle does help as he falls, but we have to remember the magical power of a defender, which is turning itself back over. Oh, that was a fortunate, unfortunate hang up there. Got through it easily. As you can see there, Ironsides has far more steering angle than one would anticipate from TRX-4 axles. Had to opt to go up to the left. Now he's got a problem here, and anything that gets kicked loose, any chunks that find themselves free, they're just left there. They are not removed from the course. So you can hear him dragging it there on the way down. Anything bad happens, there's the potential for that bad happening to happen to someone else, until eventually that chunk of concrete will get pushed off the course by something or someone, or maybe it'll just get stepped on. Either way, if it gets moved out of the course, it will not be done so by hand. No one's going to remove it. So he's working here. Ironsides has a good amount of low weight. Is clear of 4. Pulls the TRX-4 maneuver again. Moves the way down. Loops it out around. Re-enters the course. Very, very aggressively. This is... the Ironsides subscribes to the banana school of maneuvering, which is just give it the beans. And his front bumper situation is certainly not finalized. He's got himself a bit of a steep angle here. That's a bit more diagonal than I think he would want to be. But somehow, I guess the tininess, the narrowness of the Axial Ripsaw makes it through gate 5. Now he's got a decent lineup here to 6 if he can use some of that rock to pivot him. and there's a chance he's too far to his left on screen right, and he drops in. Little brush of the marker on the way down, but far less drama to get him through the start-finish. We waste no time, and Blue Sky High wastes no time pulling directly up to the line. It occurred to the event organizers only during the edit that the 3 vehicles that ended up in Group 2, and of course Group 2 is the first group, and in case anyone is wondering, the second group will be Group 1, because that's the way we do things around here. So Group 2 is all portals. That was not intentional. I mean, you know, if we were trying to structure something cheeky, it would just be all TRX-4s in the first, or whatever. This is just the way they worked out. They were chosen by score. So it's odd that these guys' scores fell in such a way as that they all ended up together. Again, on paper, one would imagine the greatest advantage in this group would go to Blue Sky High, as he has 4-wheel steer and JConcepts Ruptures. They do appear to be gripping remarkably well. The only thing betraying Blue Sky High now is his very nature. He is often betrayed by his own nature. He sits sky high, as his name implies, so he must take some ingresses and egresses from gates much more gingerly than others, because he has a tendency to... Oh, that's very close there, Blue Sky High. He has a tendency to what I call snap out, which is everything looks okay, and then all of a sudden he's upside down. And as he is a bit of an... He's a bit of an L7 square, in that if you look at him from that rear angle there, vertically, he's similarly dimensioned to his width. He's sort of a square, but the wheels do stick out higher, so he's really a trapezoid in an unfortunate way, which is when a tip goes too far. See right there? He's not going to get out of that. So we have our first rollover. The third competitor of Angles Through Oblivion brings us our first rollover. And it's really not surprising. Blue Sky High has historically been something of a rollover, but sideways gates like this, provided he manages to keep all 4 wheels in contact with, you know, planet Earth, he should do really well here. Very high there, and there's Blue Sky High being sky high. Just has to take a gentle approach. He also has the narrowest bumpers of this group, so let's throw that as an advantage. Well, and no rear bumper at all. So let's throw those in the advantage category as well. You can see how far he gets out into the middle. Like, he had no chance of coming into contact with the markers at gate 6. And with no fuss nor fanfare, he passes through the start-finish, and that ends the 3 competitors' runs from Group 2, which is the first group. So let's take a quick look at the picture of the happy group there together, and then we'll move on to that important part, which will determine placement, which are the scores. The guy in the graphics department doesn't like any 2 scoreboards to look alike, so for the results board for this round, this is what the scoreboard's going to look like. We've got reverses, gates, rollovers, and then the total score. So then we just populate them like this. Jolly Green used 4 reverses, which is inarguably a lot. He followed those 4 reverses up with hitting 3 gates, which is also a lot. But because he's long and the heaviest thing in the competition, this prevents him from doing that thing we call rolling over, so he did that 0 times. And then luckily he did that 0 times, because the 4 and the 3 multiplied by the points gives him a total of 29 for his run in round 3. Immediately behind Jolly Green was, of course, Ironsides, who used 1 less reverse, perhaps due to a shorter wheelbase, but also succeeded in striking 3 gates. Different gates, but struck 3 gates nonetheless. He combined that with a tie of 0 rollovers, which gave him a total of, it's 29 minus 2, 27 points. Which just brings us to the last to run on the day, the morning, the affair in this group. Blue Sky High, who used the power of 4-wheel steer to use 0 reverses, as he should. Then, forming like an unfortunate Voltron, he used the power of not paying enough attention to strike 1 gate, and the power of I am very tall and sometimes I flip over to score the round's first rollover. And though I know we were all promised no math, anyone who might have done the math ahead of time would know that that totals just 17 points. So there's how they broke down. The ones who ran first scored the highest, and the one who ran last scored the lowest. But he did have advantages. There he is. Blue Sky High, your round 3, group 2 being the first group, winner. So that is a guaranteed progression for Blue Sky High. There are the scores as they were run, and there are the scores as they sit, officially. Blue Sky High's name is in green, Ironsides is in yellow, and Jolly Green's is in red. Green means they did good. Yellow means they didn't do as good. Red means they are in the elimination round following Group 3. They're colored because the placement will help avoid another wild card tiebreaker. Basically, the winners of each round are guaranteed progression, so those 4 will move on regardless. The middle 4 are kind of in a bubble type situation. More notes on that to follow as we make it up, as we continue on in the Invitational.